how much money do you give the bride and groom as a gift? That's the question, all right? Going around the social medias, there's this couple that's making pretty strong viralness, all right? They spent $60,000. They had 270 guests, and they only got back $3,000 in cash. That's about $11 a person. That's pretty low. That's really freaking low. Question is, of course, was there a registry? Was it a destination wedding? In today's video, we're going to talk about this whole situation. I'm going to talk about the big problem with the wedding party's viewpoint of the situation. We're going to dive into what makes a great wedding. And we're going to talk about the cost for wedding guests. And then lastly, I'm going to get into what I think a fair gift dollar amount is per age group. All right. Let's start with just saying that I honestly don't even think, based on like my buddies getting married and knowing how much their wedding costs, like $60,000 for 270 guests, I don't think they went that crazy. I know $60,000 is a ridiculous amount of people, but 270 people is like a ridiculous amount of guests. Why are there 270 people at your wedding? You can't even talk to 270 people within those few hours. I'm a big like small wedding guy. I'm like, dude, only invite people that you really would want to have a 30-minute conversation with. Have those people come to your wedding. I just think 270 people, this is getting in the framework of like mom and dad wanting to invite these people that you don't care about. That's what I think of 270 people. Or we're talking to like 2 people who got married that are like huge extroverts and they just love to be social. So they literally have tons and tons of friends. But yeah, $3,000, $11 a person back. That's a pretty low mark. But the number one problem with this whole thought process is weddings don't have return on investment. Okay, you don't like have a wedding and think what money we're gonna get back to justify spending. Because the spending is completely unknown. You know, and for the record, like, I don't want my friend paying for his wedding spot. I'm inviting that friend, and by my invitation, I'm saying I'm cool with paying for you to come. Like, that's what the invite is. I want you to come. Like, I'm willing to not only, like, I want you to come, I'm giving you an invite, but I'm paying for you to come. Please come and have a great time. You mean a lot to me. I want you to be here and celebrate this moment. Not only emotionally do I want you to be here, but I'm financially putting my words or my dollars behind my words. Like, and I feel like, you know, being a groom or a bride, asking for people's money to supplement them coming on like that viewpoint is the wrong viewpoint, and about every single way to slice it. Okay, if they give you money on the back end, great, that's cherry on top, but you don't set up a wedding or a budget based on return. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is, you know, what do you need for a good wedding? And I've been to a bunch of weddings, so I think I've really broken down into what you actually need for a good wedding, and it's honestly only 4 things. And when we talk about good wedding, we're talking about from the viewpoint of the people who went to the wedding. Because the people who went to the wedding, they don't have the viewpoint of like the bride and the groom. The bride and the groom, like what is a good wedding from them is going to be a little bit different because they have all these like responsibilities, right, in moments. But when you're talking about just like people going to a wedding, you're pretty much asking how good was the party. All right, so what do you need for a great wedding? Number 1, you need dancing and music. I've been to weddings that had no dancing and bad music, and I was just like, this is paint dry. I mean, this is ridiculous. And then I've been to super fun weddings that they had music, and I was like, dude, this is an incredible time. So dancing and music, number 1. Number 2, transportation. Transportation, right? Your job as a wedding planner is to figure out how can people have a good time. We need to take away the responsibility. If we allow people to just be relaxed and not have to be responsible adults, then they can have a good time. AKA, we need to make sure that they are transported from site number 1 to the hotel safely, don't have to drive, don't have to make any stupid decisions. We got that covered for you. Come here, have a great time, let's rock. So transportation. Number 3, of course, because we have transportation, now everyone can enjoy the open bar. You gotta have an open bar, but you need the transportation to be able to enjoy the open bar. There's no point in having an open bar if everyone can only have like 2 beers, right? If you have an open bar, now people are having a great time. The wedding goes on much longer. People can get home safe no matter what actions they take. Now we're rocking and rolling. Great wedding. Next is location. Okay, you need a location that people can get to. Or you need a location that the people you're invited to are excited about. Either or. But you can't have a bad location, especially a bad location without transportation. If you put the wedding in the middle of nowhere where there's no hotels, there's no bars after the wedding to go to, then you're pretty much landlocked where everyone is going to need to essentially drive, and it's just not going to be fun. Now, if you pick a wedding that's a destination wedding, that's an awesome place, and you know the people you're invited that would want to go there anyways, then great. Then that works too. But yeah, dancing, transportation, open bar, and a smart location. All right, how much money, what's the lowest amount of money that you can spend on a wedding these days? I think the lowest you can spend is probably around 10 grand, 2 grand on either side, depending on what region of the United States you live in. So I think, you call it 10 grand. I think in 10 grand, you can do all this. You may not have the perfect backdrop. You may be at a friend's house, a buddy's lake house, and you may be making things work, of course. You're not going to have a perfect a wedding venue and a coordinator who's coordinating the wedding and then the music's perfect and all this stuff. You won't have that. But guess what? If you have these 4 things, everyone's going to love your wedding. Okay, what's the most expensive you can spend on a wedding? Obviously, bajillions of dollars. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, as like a personal finance person, a person who takes their personal finance seriously, spending so much money on a wedding is just such a joke. It's highway robbery. It is the biggest highway robbery of young people, is spending too much money on their wedding. Okay, so I think being financial intelligent is very important. People are all in different situations. Somebody's got a rich uncle, someone's got a rich dad. They give you a bunch of money. Now the wedding becomes bigger. That doesn't mean the weddings can become better though. So just factor those things in. At the end of the day, it's just about you and your bride. All right, let's keep going here. Costs for your wedding guests. All right, this is super important. All right, the costs have definitely gone up. So I have the lowest it can be, and then I have the middle it can be. And then there's a whole nother tier, which I didn't even get to, but we're going to do the lowest and I think what the middle can cost. All right, travel, attire, which is like suits and dresses, hotels, and then food. For travel, I have $50, which would be a tank of gas, up to $1,000, which would be a plane ticket. Suit and dress attire, I have either you just already had it, so $0, or if you're like part of the group, part of the bridal group, then it could be anywhere from $200 to $500, but let's just call it $500. Hotel, the lowest you're gonna find a hotel that's halfway decent, it's $130. Highest you're gonna find a hotel, $1,000. $1,000 pretty much gets you a hotel anywhere. Maybe you have 2 nights, so 500, but regardless, we'll put 1,000. Food, $25, and then another food, maybe bar bill at the highest end would probably be $250. Could be even higher than that. Someone watching this video could be like, dude, I spent $500 when I go out. I'm like, okay, well. All right, so how much does a wedding cost you in total? On the very low end, if you get a wedding invite in the mail, it costs you $205 to go to that wedding. That's the low end. I think that's as cheap as it can possibly be, is $205. All right, on the middle end of things, costs you $2,750 by the time you fly somewhere and do all that. Okay, that's a pretty big range, number one. But number two, spending $2,750. Holy shit. All right, so let's get to the final part of this video. How much should you give if you're attending a wedding? I think if you're under $23 or under 23, then I think $50 is fine. I think $50 if you're under 23, if you just graduate school, you probably don't have a lot of money. I think $50 is a nice gesture, and I think that's suitable. Yeah. If you're between 24 and 30, I have $100 a person. I think that's a good range. I think if $100 a person, just make sure you cover your plate. If you bring a date or you got a wife already, you take her, maybe $100 to $200, I think is a feasible, nice gesture. And then if it's 30 plus, honestly, I don't know, because I don't live in that world. But yeah, maybe you go more. I mean, think about it though. If you got to fly across the country and you got to fly 3 kids and you and your wife, I mean, that's an expensive ordeal to go to this wedding. So I think, long story short, back to my number one point is weddings don't have a return on investment. Just getting people to even come to your wedding is a win. And should it be a great time? Yeah, but if you just have these 4 things, keep a wedding cheap, keep a wedding fun. You don't need some big event. And I feel like the weddings I've been to that are like big events are the least fun weddings. I feel like weddings that are way more chill and relaxed are without a doubt the best wedding. You know, it's like I went to a wedding and you couldn't like get a beer from a bar at a certain time. Not very fun. It'd be more fun if there wasn't even a bar and there's just a cooler and I walk in and can just grab a beer. Like that would be a more fun wedding to me. I think simplicity is the key, and I don't think anyone should be spending large amounts of money going to weddings or large amounts of money for their own wedding. There's a time and a place, best friend, totally get it, but I think everyone should just be more realistic on the money they're giving out for weddings. It's just one day. And you can make it special with a low amount of money, because at the end of the day, the wedding is only about the bride and the groom, and if they love each other, it doesn't fucking matter, and about their friends having a good time. That's it. All right, guys, let me know what you think. How ridiculous is it that this couple only got $11 a person, and what do you think you should give for the different age groups? All right, thanks all. Talk soon.